Hi there, I'm about to go wild camping and I wanted to make sure that I had a copy of some of the poems that I wrote years ago in more than my folder of papers that's very unorganised, so just wanted to make sure that I've got them recorded somewhere else in case the worst happens and my house burns down. Okay. The Hedgehog. Bonfire flames spit at heaven, awakening the whirlwind of your fury. As you kick the debris, I hear whimpering, and at your feet mounds of leaves break up, exposing a blundering, barbed orb, shrinking tighter and tighter into itself. Globules of blood trickle from its willful heart. Do you care? We are silent, and it unfurls courageously, becoming a beautiful brown jewel. Bursting with love and compassion, I see angels in its eyes. You walk away slowly. It is a bristly hostage, smouldering under my tender administrations. God did not intend us to suffer alone. By Gemma Boyd. Hi there, one person watching. I'm not very good at this, I'm very shy and yeah. Anyway, okay. Mollusk. Separated from the heaving of mother, I career into pile-ups of pebbles and polystyrene curls, which whisper innuendos as I cramp up and gape at blue through cracks in my milky white carapace. Suddenly, a lashing knot of blue, a lashing knot of green blots out the blue, flips me over, smears my burgundy gut with secretions from its warts. Empty and aching, I drift among bergy bits towards moist caverns of abyssal zone, where muscular multi-arms of starfish will grind me into specks of sand. By Gemma Boyd. Hi Astral Madge, thank you. I'll find your YouTube page because I tried to follow it when you wrote me a message, but your message disappeared for some reason. So I'll try and look you up. I'll write that down now. Astral. Okay, here we go. Facebook. Facebook is a gateway to the world of my friends. Friends who remind me why I bother. Their delightful happy birthday posts. I have a faithful friend in Facebook, but within the Facebook gods' creepified conducting of this social experiment, friends can be disposed of or replaced at the click of a button. Human beings are hodgepodge and outmoded attributes such as sensitivity and consideration are not a feature of faceless over-communication. Who and what is deserving of deletion? Gazing outwards, I notice a figure under a wet umbrella with a bunch of flowers slung over his shoulder. By Gemma Boyd. I haven't looked in this book for a while now, so I'm just improvising. Okay. Jerry. When you were 13, you wanted to be hugged by Alma Cogan. I wish I could stroke away and absorb your cancer into my bones. Winning at croquet, admiring sunflowers, watching EastEnders pack your days. I feel so helpless, amoeba-like, you turn out of my arms, by Gemma Boyd. That was October 2002, and the last one was September 2011. I should really be reading those. I wrote these next poems when I was 40, and they're about my childhood growing up in Walsall in the West Midlands of England. So here goes. They're untitled, so I'll just go straight in with them. Okay. Next to Woodend Road, Walsall, there is a concrete hill over the canal, flanked by juicy green slopes that on school days in the early 80s, when the snow fell in doorsteps, Mum used to pull us down, knees to backs, on a long sledge with blue runners. A lumpless journey compared to whirling singly down our tilted crescent on a round metal tea tray, scratched up by stones and ice, by Gemma Boyd. Daisy Bank Crescent, Walsall, but no daisies grew here, idling in the breeze, though its name prompts images of banks of them for me, each with a smidgen of pink in the white around yellow crowns, which maybe doesn't exist. Our neighbour, Mrs. Edwards, whose boiled sweets were squashed marbles, we could see her garden through. The bull bearing catapulted through our kitchen window, inches from Mum at the sink washing up, and of making daisy chains at Barbeacon with school friends. Cape daisy seeds germinate on top of the lovely dark stuff. I have a tray to plant out on my allotment in a few weeks, to erase the muddy footprint someone left on our windowsill, by Gemma Boyd. I am cat fat for you to play with, the driving beat of a song, a straw for your chocolate milkshake, a smiling border collie, the brooch at the nape of your neck, credits at the end of a film, expensive scent on your bedsheet, a bowl of rhubarb full, pubic hair in your plug hole, a stamping foot, by Gemma Boyd, January 2003. One day I want to own my own place called The Cake, and a garden with birds visiting, and an overgrown pond with fish in it, and next door's footballs nestled in the boughs of fruit trees, by Gemma Boyd, May 2003. Despair. Acres of my manky flesh fill every horizon. Cheap wine and prawn cocktail crisps are all I hold on for, by Gemma Boyd. Shoreham Beach. The weather changed at 5:30 a.m. today. I made myself come here to Shoreham Beach. A couple of times I've had it in my mind to come, but the pull of Jan took me to the end of Wallace Avenue in Worthing instead. I'm sitting where Dad and I had one of our rare heart-to-hearts about 7 years ago. As we spoke, he tossed pebbles into the sea, which was as grey and tormented as it is now under a white petticoat sky, peeping out from beneath wire-wall clouds smelling of dead cuttlefish. There seemed to be more seaweed here in the days when we came over during a week spent at Grandma's in Stenning, usually at Easter. My brothers, Mum and I would lob seaweed at each other, the taste of its sandy fronds salty on our chapped lips. Dad always hated sand. The hard, uncompromising pebbles suited his mood somehow. I'm hungry now, even though I've just had a 1 pound cup of mushroom soup. The sea looks to be the consistency of cold mushroom soup. Fleetingly, Dad and I made eye contact. I thought that his eyes were as deep as the sea. I don't know if they still are. I wanted to feel close to Dad and believe it when he said that he loved me, but I was waiting for what lurked beneath in the seabed of his heart, which resurfaced and carried him away from me on a lone sailboat out to sea. At these times I felt like one of the indistinct boys bobbing on the water just outside Dad's periphery of vision. Shoreham Bight, Worthing Pier on the one side, Beachy Head on the other. Walsall seemed like another world away as we sat at the centre of this cold embrace. We paddled along the water's edge, cutting our toes and getting wet trouser bottoms. Dad is lost in a sea of self-pity. Grey days stretching ahead, one after the other, as lost to me now as he was then. His jumper was school teacher grey, the same colour as my A-line school skirt, and I wanted him to put his grey arm around me to protect me, the warmth of his podgy body smelling of pipe tobacco and his bristly beard rubbing my head, but he never could. Now he wants to have a baby with Jenny, who isn't much older than me. Thinking about this, I am lost in a suddenly bleak mood with the onset of winter. Watching the shifting lenses of sea, I am reminded of Dad's mushroom-coloured glasses frames. I get up and leave, by Gemma Boyd. Betty likes to watch her deep red nail varnish crack, break off as the days pass. What Remains Looks Like Maps, by Gemma Boyd, January 2003. Prozac. Constantly punishing myself for things I haven't done until I don't know if I've done them. Unspeakable flashbacks mixing with the here and now, imagination impinging on reality. This prickly anxiety makes it hard to write, to enjoy, dragging me away from the beauty of a shiny snail making its tentative way down our bike tree. I'm so tired I want to go out today, but I've got no energy to go out and be in the world with my glasses on. All I want to do is sleep, this bolt of chemicals to the stomach and the brain, a fake orgasm. My addled mind inventing things to feel guilty about. Love and warm feelings are as shatterable as a snail's shell. They're unsafe, they're not to be trusted, they're a cover-up for something slimy. They're the calm before the storm I can't let in. I don't deserve them, by Gemma Boyd, May 2005. Fat Boy Slim 2002. Thick skins of beer cans and broken glass cover up Brighton Beach, by Gemma Boyd, February 2003. I lived in Brighton for 12 years, so a lot of my poems are about Brighton and the south coast. Impossible for Jan Richards. I miss you most when I wash my face in the mornings, when I have a cup of tea. Shut up the seagulls with husks on the breeze over a badly cut sapphire sea. I miss your cuddles, my soul is sore. Wellington boots. You know, it's the little niggly things people say which can make one feel like death sometimes. Whenever these things happen, I think of my Wellington boots. Wellington boots symbolise things tucked away in a corner of my heart where nobody can ravage them or take them away. Memories are earwigs squirming away underneath flower pots in the exclusive underground world they share with night people like foxes who, I'm sure, shift around next door's footballs implanted all around the garden for our entertainment as we sleep. Wellington boots are good houses for other night people, hedgehogs, bristly hostages who smoulder under my tender administrations after I accidentally squash them, shoving my heel into the limp tunnel of the boot. Wellington boots I can feel cool mud through as I stoop to plant bluebells, which will hopefully work for the springtime. The cool, wet mud, the brittle aquamarine sky, and the sunset dipping its fronds into the sea, making it blush a gorgeous shade of pink, make the niggly things people say pale into insignificance. Springtime in Hainault. Beer can in the water butt, discs of beer cans within mown grass. Can ring hallmarked into the pavement, beer can teetering on a shop wall. By Gemma Boyd. Remembering. Rachel has exactly the same mouth as Angie's. V of the jug spout, her inside elbow. Jan liked to watch Jenny relieve herself on country walks. By Gemma Boyd. Pumpkin seed. I plant out the broken off seedling regrown on my windowsill. Cabbage white flits over everything. Slugs glide down inside windbreaks made of home-based bags and canes behind a drooped female fruit swells. Hollyhock skirts watered with nettle and comfrey. Yellow flowers crown this single pumpkin, turning a slow orange, can be seen from the road, now corn poppies on a sun-dried Sunday. Sophia. 1. Mars on the mantelpiece, amber jam and cold tea. She fingers her plastic jewel earlobe. 2. Old lady's lipstick drinking Guinness from a chocolate chalice. 3. She's got harp-like tendons on the backs of her hands, but her face is all wrong. Heads. That just won't do, having to bear another person. Thin voices barely communicating, everyone in dire need of emotional nourishment, but we disguise it with price checks and shopping bags. It's hard to believe that other people can carry us in their heads, so we fill ourselves with poisonous comfort. By Gemma Boyd. Normal. Normal is a scary thing to be because normal is being one's undiluted, unabashed, unfettered self. To align oneself with another normal person is extremely difficult on the surface of things. Sometimes being normal can make one feel vulnerable. Vulnerable to violation, vulnerable to being thought disgraceful or disgusting, but that's normal apparently. If you're open to the idea of being normal and practice so with others, you may be surprised at the tears of recognition you see before we all pretend to be normal again. By Gemma Boyd. This series of poems or short story type poems I wrote in my 20s, when I was working out who I was, what the world means. Still don't know the answer to that, but yeah. Love. Love is a dangerous word. If it exists between two people, poems need not have to explain how it feels. There'd be no urge to put a seal on a loving friendship so that it doesn't get a chance to breathe and grow. There are no words to describe, too many words to describe a kind of love one person has for another person. All loves are different and unique. Why rock the boat for the sake of saying I love you or you're mine, when we're not really in control anyway of what happens to us? Just try and experience every loving moment for what it is, and love it just for that. Hi Sam, I like gloves. Yeah, so do I. I've just bought a pair of military mittens for when I go wild camping. Not very feminine, but who cares, right? Mirrors. Mirrors don't exist. Magicians use them to create illusions. Mirrors make us question ourselves more than we need to. There are enough unanswered questions already regarding where we fit into the world, into other people's lives. I'm a lot happier now that I don't look in the mirror at every available opportunity. I'm no longer trapped under massive icebergs of insecurity and live a life akin to animals who've never known the world of mirrors and the misery they can bring. Animals are blissfully unaware of how beautiful they are. Other people do a good enough job of showing us to ourselves. By Gemma Boyd. The mechanics of meeting someone you love and who loves you back have to be so finely, acutely in tune. The chemistry has to be just right for it to have a future. All other meetings with people are near misses. By Gemma Boyd. Euthanasia. Nobody could be blamed for wanting out of all of this. All of this can't define life any better, really. And we're all profoundly flawed, profoundly amazing, profoundly disabled. Life takes our ability to reason, remain in control of our limbs, turns us into pickled onions. There is no such thing as security in people's lives. There is only company, to know and value the company of yourself, the angel who makes your soul work for you, and friends, makes death just not an option. You have to want to be a part of life if you're not going to let it break your heart into smaller and smaller pieces. Only then can you feel enough joy to want to offer up a thank you for all of this. War. It starts like this. Two women who don't know the answers wanting to hug each other, but too afraid that they'll be making themselves vulnerable to another mobile Florence Nightingale who has the power to hurt. They're fighting all that dazzle of needing to feel attached, fighting to appear straightforward. So they go to war with themselves and then with each other, and like seedlings shooting arms, everything ends up pointy in all directions. By Gemma Boyd. What I like doing. I like walking along Walsall Canal, following a heron from bank to bank and kicking up cycle tracks, the lines of which wiggle into eternity. I just let the lines dictate, lines on the road, lines on her face, walking out my thoughts, walking out my thoughts. Present. Cream walls soothing my hangover, cold fingers on cold desktop. The pressing of my fingers to my pen feels comfy, like the sensation of my fist rubbing along smooth paper. November sky. Staff stomping up the stairs sounds like three teenage boys intruding on the room that smells newly painted. Bum prints on the apricot upholstered seats, juxtaposed with the Jackson Pollock style upholstery of the seats in the coach this morning, the look of which made me feel the weight of all that grease from last night's bag of chips I ate walking home from the QA, sloshing away in 4 glasses of white wine. Desktop surface looks like a pebbly beach viewed from a helicopter. How a pebble weighed my papers down as I wrote love letters to Jan on Brighton Beach in the summer. Traffic spewing down the seafront reminds me of how people's lives carry on regardless. The plainness of floorboards bear no resemble to the nation of filthy people outside the frosted glass window, living their lives to a harsh electric guitar accompaniment. Bare walls, save for one poster calling all clients to attention. A doorbell rings. Another intrusion. A hacking cough. Loud voices. I'll just go and make a phone call. Throw all mobiles in the sea, that's what I say. There are 5 empty seats around this table, possibly occupied by invisible angels, symptoms of our brilliant minds. Otherworldly Delusions by Gemma Boyd. Head lice. Lizzie and I were obsessed with an enlarged picture of a head louse in the family medical book. We both contracted head lice in infant school, and every time she came to my place, we'd make for the medical book and this particular page. We showed my mum the picture every time we looked it up. She laughed, but eventually became so fed up with humouring us that she hid it. Nowadays, Lizzie and I meet in fancy restaurants located in London's financial sector, which is infested with workers in suits. We're sentimental about our school days, and the head louse picture in the medical book always comes up in conversation. Memories shared are like pleasurable itches which won't go away but fade with time. We still have obsessions, but now they are adult in nature. Not as infinitesimal as a head louse, but just as fascinatingly grotesque, my beloved and her beloved. Unlike the picture of the head louse in the medical book, we can't depend on our mums to hide them away when the obsession gets out of hand or goes wrong. These obsessions aren't easy to grow out of. For better or worse, they bypass the hair and go straight to the brain. Mornings. The morning comes around too fast for me. Some days I just live for going to bed. Sometimes I wake up and I'm still in the dark. Thoughts, good and bad, about you crowd in. Feels like my brain is bursting red currents, and the hurt, all too much, squeezes coal from my tear-smudged eyes. Fingers of daylight touch the whitewashed walls, signalling the beginning of another day when I must put you to the back of my head. I never pull the blind to let the full impact of the day in. Some mornings I have to leave my warm room, which smells of cat, and cycle to work. My hands get so cold that they swell up for days and crack under the strain of washing up and putting away, washing up and putting away. Now a month has passed, and you're not the first thing I think about when I wake in the morning. By Gemma Boyd. I think I'll leave it at that for today. Thank you for the people that popped by. Have a good day. Bye.